In this class, we will discuss about the helical gear, its basic concepts and the design procedure. So basically, helical gears are the gear with the teeth inclined at some particular angle, and that angle, which is made with the line of action of the or the axis of the shaft, is called as the helical angle. You can see here the tooth are inclined, and this angle made with the axis is called as the helical angle. So if the teeth is normal helical gears, the teeth are straight, but in the helical gears, teeth are inclined. It can be straight also, but some particular angle. If this teeth is arranged in a spiral manner, that is called as the spiral type helical gears. Now, some of the features of the helical gear are they are usually used for the transmission of power between parallel shaft. They can also transmit power between in non-intersecting shaft also, but usually it is adopted for the parallel shaft. Since this is the engagement of one helical gear with the other is in a very gradual process, the noise produced is also very less, and that makes it suitable for the higher speed application. And if you look at the shape of the gear from the front, it will take an involute profile. So usually the profile used for the fabrication of the helical gear is nothing but involute profiles. These helical gears are twisted around according to the helical angle, and also the machining of the gear is taking place in the opposite helical direction. So one portion, if you are considering this as the front portion and this is the tail portion, then the tail portion of the adjacent gear will mesh with the head portion of the helical gear. This is how the machine takes place, or we have to arrange the helical gear in that direction. Now, since the teeth is inclined, we have to consider the axial force also, or in other words, we can say that since the teeth are inclined, axial force also generates in the system. But in the spur gear, we have noticed that there is only two kind of forces. One was the radial force and second one is tangential force. But here, that is not the case. We have to consider the axial thrust also. Now we know that the pitch is nothing but the distance from one point on a gear on a particular teeth to the adjacent point on the next teeth or the adjacent teeth. So here we have to discuss about three different pitches. One is the transverse pitch, second one is the normal pitch, and third one is the axial pitch. So this is the transverse pitch, what I am talking about, and we have to discuss about the normal pitch, and also we have to discuss about the axial pitch. So when we look at the transverse pitch, this is measured on the pitch circle, and when we go to the normal pitch, it is measured in a plane perpendicular to the teeth rotation, and the axial pitch is in the direction of shaft axis. So if we look at this particular figure, we can see that this is the direction of teeth, or the teeth is arranged on the circumference like this, and this is the plane we are talking about, and we are measuring the distance along this plane. So if we consider a point here and a point here, this distance is called as the normal pitch, and if we consider a plane along the direction of rotation, this is called as the axial pitch. These are the three different pitches or the planes that we have to consider. And among this, one of the main plane that we have to discuss is the normal plane. So you have to keep one thing in mind, that the normal plane is measured in this direction, because that is very much needed when we move forward. Now comes the most important part, which is nothing but the force analysis. So I hope you all remember the spur gear. In the spur gear, we have got only two components. One is the Ft and Fr. This is just because Fn, the normal force, was acting in this direction in the spur gear. This was the direction of action of the force in the case of a spur gear. But now, when we consider the helical gear, we have to consider this force system in the three-dimensional space. But that was not the case of a spur gear. It was only in a two-dimensional plane. If you consider this rectangular box, that was the plane of consideration for the spur gear, because the force was the diagonal of this rectangular box. But now it has got changed. Now it has taken the position here. This is the direction of action. So we have to consider the three-dimensional type of analysis. So if we split this normal force into three components, so the one is going to be the tangential force. This is going to transmit the torque, and we have a radial force. This is going to keep the gear intact, and finally, as we have discussed, the third new force that come into the picture is the axial thrust. These are the three forces. So in other words, we can say that the normal force can be resolved into three. One is the tangential force, second one is the radial, and finally the axial force. So it is just a resolution. So if we resolve this, this diagonal is going to be Fn cos phi n. Again, if you resolve from here to here, you can have the Ft, and if you again resolve from here to here, you can have the Fa. Like that, it is a very simple trigonometric calculation in which you can find out the various values of Ft, Fr and Fa. All these values are provided in the data handbook also, but you should know how it is being calculated. It's a very simple thing, basic mathematics. Now, if we consider this normal plane, it is, or if we take a section along the normal plane, then we can, that section is nothing but the section of a spur gear. It is very much similar to that. So we have, what we are going to do is we are going to calculate the formative number of teeth. The formative number of teeth is the number of teeth on an equivalent spur gear in the normal plane. So if you cut a plane, if you cut along this normal plane, it will simply resemble a spur gear. So that spur gear is the equivalent spur gear in the normal plane, and the number of teeth in that equivalent spur gear is called as the formative number of teeth. So the formative number of teeth is represented by ZV, and the equation is nothing but Z cube by cos cube beta. Z is the actual number of teeth. So please don't get confused, because here we are going to deal with two different type of teeth. Z is the one which is the actual number of teeth of a helical gear, inclined teeth. If we say 22, that means we have got 22 inclined teeth. That is the number of teeth on the actual number of teeth on the helical gear. But ZV is not the actual number, it's a virtual one, virtual number of teeth, or the formative number of teeth on the normal plane. It doesn't mean that you should have a whole number there. We can have 22.31 like that. So whatever might be the value you are going to get for the formative number of teeth, there is no need to round it up. You can directly use that value because it is an imaginary value. And also you have to think about the normal module. So in a spur gear, actually the module was the ratio of the d by Z, diameter to number of teeth. That was the module. But here the tangential module is nothing but M, or simply the module, and we are going to discuss the normal module, the normal plane. So the relationship between the actual module and the normal module is Mn is equal to M into cos beta. This is the relation that we are going to use. So if we relate the actual number of teeth with the actual module, or if we are going to define it, number of teeth, it is nothing but d by M. M is nothing but Mn by cos beta. Of we substitute it here, we will get the value of Z as d cos beta by Mn. So no need to panic, because all these values are directly given in your data handbook. You can directly cross check your data handbook for these values. But you should understand what exactly is the normal module and what exactly is the virtual number of teeth, and what is the relationship between the normal module and the actual module, and what is the relationship between the formative number of teeth and the actual number of teeth. These are the basic fundamental things, or the fundamental nomenclatures that we are going to use for the design. So now let us discuss the design procedure of a helical gear, or how exactly we are going to design. So if you understand the design procedure of spur gear, it is very similar. It is very much similar, 99.9% it's similar to that of the spur gear. Only thing is that the terminologies is going to change, some other terminologies is going to come, and please don't get confused with these two. The procedure, the steps are one and the same. The equation is going to change. So basically what we have to do is, we have to write down the allowable stresses for the pinion and gear from the table 12.22, which is nothing but which is given in the page number 241. Now let us go to the page number 241 and see what is given over there for the page number 241. This is 223. Now if we move forward, 241. Yes, this is the page number 241. You can see here the allowable static stresses, the helical and herringbone gears. So for the spur gear we have got a separate table, and for the helical gear you have got another table here to refer for the allowable static stress. So from here you can select the value for the static stress. This is how we are going to select the static stress values for the gear. Also, if you look here, you can see that for the helical gear, the three-dimensional figure that we have discussed is also given here. Helical gear geometry and the forces is also given there in your data handbook, and also the various planes under which we are going to resolve the normal forces. So if we look here, you can see the basic relationship between M and M. You can see the relationship between diameter and normal module. All these things are directly given in your data handbook, so there is no need to by heart all those things. It can be directly taken from the data handbook. So immediately after getting the normal stress, the stress values, we have to calculate the formative number of teeth. So to calculate the formative number of teeth, you should have the values of Z1 and Z2. So at least you should have one of the values, because if you know the gear ratio, from there you can calculate the other one. So if not given, you have to assume a Z1 and then Z2. You will get the value of Z2, and using this Z1 and Z2 we have to calculate the formative number of teeth. Z1V means it is the formative number of teeth for the pinion, and Z2V means it is the formative number of teeth for the gear. So using the same equation, ZQ divided by cos Q beta, this is also given there in the equation 12.22a. So all these values Z1, Z2, ZV1, ZV2, N1 and N2, all these values should be readily available with us before we start with the design procedure. So as you all know, the step 1 is nothing but the calculation of the identification of the weaker member. For that we have to calculate the sigma 1 y1, sigma 2 y2. Y1 and y2 is the Lewis form factor. So here you should have a very clear cut idea that Lewis form factors, the equation we are going to use is the same for that we have used for the spur gear. So in order to calculate the Lewis form factor y1 and y2, you should use ZV1 and ZV2. You should not use the Z1 and Z2, because we are using the same equation that we use for the spur gear. So we have to select the formative number of teeth of this or the equivalent spur gear for calculating the y1 and y2. That is a very important point, so please keep that in mind. So using ZV1 and ZV2, you calculate y1 y2, and further you calculate Z1 y1, Z2 y2, and the smaller among these two values is going to be the weaker one, and we have to design the weaker member. Now the step 2 is the tangential tooth load. Same equation, 1000 PCS by V. Velocity have to be substituted in terms of normal module. D has to be MNZ divided by cos beta. I think you all remember that equation. So using this equation, you substitute for V, and finally we will get the value of Ft in terms of Mn. Previously in the spur gear it was in terms of just M. Here we have to get the value in terms of Mn. And finally the tangential load using the Lewis equation. This is the equation, pi sigma by Mn Cv divided by Cw. The only new term which come here is the Cw. Cw is the wear and lubrication factor from the table 12.21, and B we are going to assume it as 10 Mn. Usually 10 Mn can be adopted, or it can be 12.5, 13 Mn. All these are acceptable values, but for the sake of simplicity we are going to 10 Mn. Here we have to consider, or we have to understand a difference between the double helical gear and herringbone gears. See, double helical gear means you have got helix on two different sides, but it is separated by a small gap like given in the figure. You can see a small gap between the helicals, but that is not the case of a herringbone gears. These two teeth are in touch with each other. So if we are using a double helical gear, or if we are designing a double helical gear, take b by 2 as the face width. Please don't use b, you have to use the b by 2 as the face width. And y is the Lewis form factor for the weaker member. So the use of ZV1 and ZV2 was just to find out the value of y1 and y2. Further, we are not going to use the value of Z1 and Z2. Nowhere. ZV1 and ZV2. Okay. So after substituting it over here, the left over is nothing but an equation with mn cube CV greater than or equal to some values you are going to get. And by using the same trial and error method, you have to solve the equation to get the value of normal module. So once you get the normal module, it's our duty to calculate FT, B, the original diameter D1, D2, and also the actual module using this equation. You have to calculate the actual module, actual number of teeth. All those things you should calculate after the step number 3. Those are the basic dimensions. And you can use the fundamental equations given in your data handbook to calculate all those things. Hey, see, you can see here. You can calculate the circular pitch, normal pitch, diametral pitch. You can calculate the normal module and tangential module, your circular diameter, pitch circle diameter, all these things. So the equation from the page number 211 can be used for the calculation, easy calculation of the dimensions. And moving forward to the step number 5, we have to calculate the dynamic load, where Ft, this is going to be the equation that is given in the page number 240. So here same thing, K3 is nothing but 20.61, C is the same what we have done for this per gear. You calculate the error first from the chart, from the table, sorry, not from the table, from the figure. Using that, you can calculate the value of C from the table 12.12 and you can substitute it over here. So once you have all these values, substitute over here, get the value of FD, and finally we will calculate the wear load using the equation D1BQK divided by cos square beta. So this is very similar to that of the spur gear, not change at all. So after substituting it over here, we will equate FW with FD and we will calculate the value of K, and K is going to be the load stress factor. And if this FW is not greater than or equal to FD, then calculate the value of K by equating FW equal to FD, and based upon the value of K, suggest the hardness value for the pinion and gear. That is how we design for the helical gear. The same was used for the design of spur gear. So it is just matter of understanding the design of spur gear so that you can easily understand the design of helical gear. So these are the steps which are very similar, and this step is going to be the same for the bevel gear also. So please go through this step, solve more number of problems to get this step understood, and you refer to the data handbook with various equations, and we have to find the normal module, and finally we have to FD, FW, all those things. So this is what you are supposed to do here. And when we consider the problems of the helical gear, the only confusion that you are going to make, or only difficult area, is with the normal module and the tangential module. So where you have to use Mn. So don't worry about all those things, because this formatted number of teeth is only used for the calculation of y1 and y2, and further nowhere we are going to use the equation ZV1, ZV2. Everywhere we are going to use the values M and Z. So if there is Mn somewhere over there, you completely rely on the equations given in your data handbook. You don't need to worry about anything. So when we solve one or two questions, you will understand what exactly or how similar the problems are with the spur gear. I hope you all understood the basic design procedure. Again, go through the video. Everything is described here. Take the data handbook, refer the figures, refer the tables, refer the equations, understand it. And in the next session, I will solve one or two questions from the helical gear, where we have got two different types of problem. One with the number of teeth given or with the unknown diameters, and the second type is with the diameters readily available with us. So this is how we are going to design it. Thank you.